Hi everyone, Hugo here, one of the co-hosts of the show. What you're about to watch is a highlight from one of our most recent episodes. To get access to the full version, receive 2 exclusive episodes a month, get every episode 1 week early, and help us stay as independent as possible, support us on Patreon through the link below. Thank you. Now enjoy the show. The CIA, Mossad, and Epstein unraveling the intelligence ties of the Maxwell family. Your article outlines Robert Maxwell's alleged ties to both British and Israeli intelligence. This, for those who do not know, is the father of the currently most famous Maxwell. From your research, how credible do you think the evidence is for these connections? And how have mainstream outlets chosen to cover or ignore this aspect of his legacy?
Yeah, I mean, let's say who Robert Maxwell is. He is Ghislaine Maxwell's father, and that means Jeffrey Epstein's partner. And he was the founder of a vast media and tech empire, which employed more than 16,000 people. So think Rupert Murdoch meets Bill Gates, but somehow less likable than either of those guys. For Robert Maxwell, anyway, I think the evidence of his involvement with intelligence is overwhelming. I mean, that guy has been connected to the Israeli state before there was even an Israeli state. He was a Jewish refugee from Czechoslovakia who fled to the UK and then fought for Britain against Germany. During World War II, his language skills came in importance, and he landed himself a job in British intelligence. And then after the war, he used his Czech connections to buy and funnel weapons to militia forces that would later become the IDF. These militias were terrorist groups like the Haganah, who used Maxwell's weapons to carry out the Nakba, which was the genocide of 750,000 Palestinians in 1948. Maxwell's media empire and he just had so many connections to everyone in high politics. He was, for example, elected an MP in the 1960s and 1970s in the UK. He counted Henry Kissinger and everyone's least favorite Soviet premier, Mikhail Gorbachev, as among his closest friends. I like to think of him, Maxwell, Gorby, and Kissinger all sharing an extra hot and spicy Pizza Hut pizza in hell right now. Maxwell definitely worked with the Mossad, Israeli intelligence, to sell surveillance software around the world to police, to intelligence agencies, and to governments. Unbeknownst to them, however, this software had a secret Israeli backdoor allowing Tel Aviv to tap into classified information gathered by governments around the world. He also worked with the Israeli embassy to help them kidnap and capture Israeli nuclear weapons whistleblower Mordecai Vanunu. As everyone knows, Israel has a shit ton of nuclear missiles, but pretends it doesn't. Vanunu went to the British press in 1986 with evidence of this, and Maxwell helped track his whereabouts for the Israeli government, leading to his abduction. But probably, I would say, the strongest evidence for Maxwell's connections to intelligence was what happened just after he died. He actually died in very suspicious circumstances, apparently just falling off his luxury yacht in the Mediterranean. Near Tenerife, actually. Never to be seen again. His own children don't really believe that this was an accident, but that's another story. Anyway, his body was recovered, and it was immediately flown in a private jet to Israel, where it was buried at the Mount of Olives, which is probably the most sacred site in Judaism. It's the place where Jesus is supposed to have ascended to heaven from. So that's a pretty enormous honor to be given. It's usually only given to heads of state and very important people and the like. And at the funeral, basically the entirety of Israeli political society attended it, including all 6 former and current heads of the Mossad. The president of Israel that performed the eulogy and the prime minister spoke at the funeral as well. It was Yitzhak.
Fucking insane.
Was it Yitzhak Shamir or Yitzhak Rabin? I'm always forgetting which Yitzhak it was. But anyway, one of the Yitzhaks said something like, and I'm paraphrasing here, "The world will never know how much Maxwell did for Israel."
Jesus Christ.
So, after his death, a book came out called Robert Maxwell, Israeli Super Spy. And even before it was published, Isabelle Maxwell, his daughter and Ghislaine's sister, obtained a copy of the manuscript somehow and immediately flew to Israel to meet what the Times of London at the time called close family friend. That close family friend was David Kimchi, the deputy director of the Mossad. which is not exactly the sort of thing that dampens rumors about your connections to the state of
Yeah.
Israel, right? It's like my not involved with the Mossad t-shirt has a lot of people asking questions already answered by my t-shirt, you know? Yeah.
Fantastic. Just the scope, that's what surprised me the most, because like it's one thing for your dad to have been involved in intelligence agency work, or to have been a soldier, or even like, I don't know, a colonel or a major or whatever. We are talking about someone who was involved in some of the most historically important moments for the settler colonial project of Israel, right? Someone who was on this funeral, the fucking leader of the country was reading out his goddamn eulogy, right? Being raised in an environment with a direct connection to someone like that. And there is no way you are raised by someone like Maxwell's father without having been introduced to every strata of, you know, the main leaders from behind the scenes, let's call it that, of Israel proper, and maybe other intelligence agencies throughout the world. To believe there is no connection, or that she did not utilize her now passed away father's immense power, would be silly. Then I have a bridge in San Francisco to sell you. But to continue, you suggest that the Maxwell family's influence extends also across media, intelligence, and tech sectors. How coordinated do you think this influence actually was, and to what extent might it have been shaped by state actors, Mossad and the CIA that we mentioned earlier?
Yeah, I mean, when it was Robert running the ship, it was really very well coordinated engine. He was known as a tyrannical boss who meddled in everyone's work. But when he died, the business empire kind of fell apart, and it was left to his children to pick up the pieces. His daughters, especially Isabelle and Christine Maxwell, went into the world of tech, which, as you may know, was dominated by the US national security state in the early days. The internet is a creation of the US military, and for the use of surveillance, CIA and NSA literally funded Sergey Brin's research that would lead to Google, and the CIA even oversaw the evolution of Google in its early days. They even had shares in Google until 2005, but that's another story. Anyway, yeah, actually, talking of search engines, the internet's first engine wasn't actually Google. Do any of you know what it was?
I shouldn't I? But no, sir,
It
no.
was Magellan, or as you Americans insist on calling it, JT, Magellan.
Correctly.
Anyway, Magellan was created by Isabelle and Christine Maxwell. They sold the project in the 1990s, netting them a fortune. And from then on, Isabelle, who was a millionaire by this time, of course, decided she would dedicate her life to advancing the cause of Israel in Silicon Valley, declaring that she would, and I'm quoting here, work only on things involving Israel as I believe in Israel, end quote.
Wow.
He became a liaison between Silicon Valley and Israel, constantly traveling back and forth between the two. He was and is close personal friends with Israeli prime ministers like Ehud Olmert and Ehud Barak, who you might remember made more than 30 trips to Jeffrey Epstein's New York mansion as well. She was on the board of the Israeli government-funded Shimon Peres Center for Peace and Innovation, and also the American Friends of the Yitzhak Rabin Center for Israel Studies, which means that her work was directly financed by the Israeli government. After they sold Magellan, I'll say it right, Christine developed buying software that she sold to the FBI for uses of counterterrorism. The FBI used this stuff during the first Bush administration to crack down on Muslims nationwide, surveilling and harassing them. And a lot of people have commented that this software actually seems to look, on the surface anyway, an awful lot like the software that Robert Maxwell sold to spying agencies around the world in the 1980s. Software that, as I said, had an Israeli backdoor in it, but that's pretty much speculation. What isn't speculation, though, is how close Christine is to the state of Israel as well. She's currently on the board of the Institute for Study of Global Anti-Semitism and Policy. Also on that board are Natan Sharansky, who is the former Deputy Prime Minister of Israel, and of course, America's favorite lawyer, Alan Dershowitz.
Epstein was shown to be what he was. I ended my personal association with him completely, but I maintained a legal relationship with him. I represented some of the worst people in the world and continue to do so. That's my life. And of course, I represented Epstein. Now, the one point I do want to make is that I understand all the feminist groups and the radicals who think this is the worst thing in the world, that anybody ever had any contact with Jeffrey Epstein. Where are all those radical feminists when it comes to the Hamas of young Jewish girls, sexual abuse, beheadings? They are quiet.
The douchebag himself. So what that means, right, is that in her role at the Institute, Christine Maxwell is directly being funded by the government of Israel again. And this funding, by the way, wasn't disclosed and only came out after an investigation by Forward magazine. So it seems like they didn't really want anyone knowing about that funding. I should say something about Robert Maxwell's sons, Ian and Kevin. They weren't really as successful. In fact,
so Ian and Kevin are the two sons. Sorry for interrupting you, just so the audience gets it, even though it should read the fucking article. I'm looking at you. But yes, okay, those are the two sons. Okay, please continue.
Robert had two sons as well, Ian and Kevin. They were not really as successful as Christine or Isabel. In fact, I would say they're basically both fail sons. Kevin, in particular, is most well known for being Britain's biggest ever bankrupt, defaulting on debts of over $500 million US.
Wow. What the fuck?
I mean, how do you lose $500 million? That is insane.
But still, even with that, there's such like main character syndrome. Like, you get what I mean? Like, even in their failure, they like the world's largest scandal right now, a Maxwell is involved. The founding of the state of Israel, a Maxwell was involved. Even the greatest fail son in the history of the UK, you said UK, right? Again, a Maxwell. It's like really main character syndrome. Out of the fucking heli, you know. Sorry.
Yeah, well, they have been influential in their own right. I mean, in 2018, Ian and Kevin started a think tank called Combating Jihadist Terrorism and Extremism, or COJIT for short, which worked closely with other right-wing organisations in the UK to press the UK government to surveil and, frankly, harass the local Muslim population even more. Yeah. COJIT was pretty influential in the UK. I mean, at its first conference, for example, the Director General of MI5, which is Britain's CIA, headlined the event, which again begs the question of how connected is this family to intelligence? I mean, I could go into how Isabel's son was literally a high official at the State Department and crafted US policy towards Israel and Iran, or how Christine's son literally worked in the White House itself. But I feel like I'm going on a bit. You can just check out the article, as you said, it's called The CIA, Mossad and Epstein, Unraveling the Intelligence Ties of the Maxwell Family. But what I would say about the article is it's definitely not conspiratorial. What did Marx say about conspiracies or anti-Semitism being the socialism of fools? I mean, I'm only dealing in that article with really well-established, verifiable facts and don't really go in for innuendos or anything. And that's actually why I think Jeffrey Epstein's ties to Israel or US intelligence are actually less documented or established or proven than most of the Maxwell clans. So honestly, by way of answering your question, is this stuff shaped by intelligence or governments? I think, yeah, it surely is. But the Maxwell clan have their own motives and engines driving this story forward as well.
Beautifully put. Thank you for watching. To gain access to the full episode, receive 2 exclusive episodes a month, get every episode 1 week early, and help us stay as independent as possible, support us on Patreon through the link below.